we could have a major trade in the WNBA. Annie Costabile of the Chicago Sun-Times is reporting that the first domino of free agency may be a 3-team deal. It would send Jewell Loyd to the Las Vegas Aces from the Seattle Storm and Kelsey Plum from the Aces to the Los Angeles Sparks. Now, the question is, what did the Storm get in return for this? Now, this has been brewing for a while. The Storm, I guess you could say, has been brewing for a while because we know that Jewell Loyd has asked out of Seattle. And we also could read the tea leaves that Kelsey Plum wanted to move on from the Aces. But that third team coming in is the wild card, being the Sparks, who, if they get Plum, they could put her with a great core, Cameron Brink, De'Arica Hamby, Rakia Jackson, and others, of course. And they do have assets, including the number 2 pick in the draft. So we'll see how it shakes out because Seattle's going to want to get in order to give, and that would probably also make Jewell Loyd happy in the process, landing in Las Vegas. You know, I had talked about the possibility of the swap for Plum and Loyd, and that made sense, of course, 1 for 1 with both players wanting to move on. But perhaps this third team coming in makes it even sexier and better and more interesting, especially with the Los Angeles connection and Kelsey Plum's star power there. You know, how this would shake out remains to be seen. And the Sparks being this sort of premier destination could be what we're looking at going forward. They got a new coach over there. Obviously, a core that I just spoke of. Now, we don't know if all of those players will be there if this deal does go down, but Cameron Brink should be back from her ACL injury. Obviously, Hamby is there. Jackson is there. You know, they have Ray Burrell. We'll see, you know, who's involved in a trade like this. And then there is that number 2 pick in the upcoming WNBA draft, which I'd imagine would be Seattle's first ask, right? Like that's, if you're the Storm, forget the Aces aspect of this. They're moving on from Plum, or Plum wants to move on. They're getting Loyd in return. Pretty good 1-for-1 swap, regardless of what you think of the players, right? Like you can argue who's better. I mean, I think Plum has been more efficient. Loyd has scored at a higher volume. Either way, Loyd's going to a team, if she does wind up with the Aces, where she's not the number 1 option, playing off others. So her efficiency will have to come up, but they could certainly use her scoring to replace Kelsey Plum. We'll see what they would do defensively in the backcourt. Loyd plays defense, but she's on the smaller side. With Chelsea Gray in the backcourt, I still think they could have some backcourt defensive issues due to a lack of speed and size. But nonetheless, it would be some punch for the Aces and makes sense. Duh, right? And then Kelsey Plum in Los Angeles makes sense. Big star, one of the bigger stars in the NBA, WNBA, from a profile notoriety standpoint. A player who is proven at the college level as a scorer, elite scorer, proven at the WNBA level as a scorer, and probably just wants a new chapter, a fresh start, if you will. She's won championships in Vegas, but if she goes to the Sparks and they keep most of that core, they may not win the title or anything, but they certainly should be an interesting team for years to come. So then the question or the dilemma becomes, what do you give up to get Plum in tow? And would you surrender that number 2 pick in the draft? And I'm sure a lot of people's instant reaction is going to be like, no, you don't give up the number 2 pick in the draft no matter what, because people always value potential over proven, even though that's not necessarily the wise thing to do. Now, here's how I would look at it. If I am Los Angeles, I'm playing hardball because we know that Jewell Loyd has requested a trade. So it's not as if the Storm are negotiating from a point of strength here. They're not at a point of strength because Jewell Loyd has forced their hand. Jewell Loyd seems like she was, if not the impetus for, a major driving force behind the Storm coaching staff getting investigated for bullying accusations, which they were cleared of in the investigation. She seems to have butted heads rather mightily with Skylar Diggins-Smith and others there. Nneka Ogwumike has a great relationship with the coach in Seattle, Noel Quinn. So lots of dynamics that let you know Jewell Loyd ain't going to be on the Storm, like no matter what, right? So if I'm the Sparks, I'm looking at that as my point of strength in the negotiation to say, no, I'm keeping the number 2 pick. You can have one of these other promising players on the roster Probably not Jackson, probably not Brink. Who else? Go ahead. After that, you can have your pick of players on the roster, and we'll go from there. That would be my initial approach. Now, the question would be is if that's a no, and the only thing that gets the deal done is the number 2 pick, would you do it? And I think that's an interesting query. And to be honest, I kind of believe I would. Again, Kelsey Plum is a proven hooper. She can be barbecue chicken at times defensively. That is, I think, the biggest drawback, obviously, to a move like that. But Plum, just last year, in what wasn't considered like a great year for her, averaged almost 18 points on 42% shooting. She shot 37% from three. She has scored 20 points per game in her career. It's not like she's ancient. She's 30 years old. So you would hopefully be signing up for at least 4 or 5 years of her, relative prime. And again, she's prime time. I think she's the kind of player who can help sell tickets in LA and all those other things. And you bring her with Brink and Rakia and whoever else remains at the core, Hamby. And all of a sudden, you got a team that's competing at the same time, and it's a proven commodity versus going to the draft where very well could be that Olivia Miles is available at the second pick. Or who knows, even Paige Beckers could try to. That's the other thing. We don't know what's going on with the Paige Beckers. I'm working under the assumption that the Wings are going to take Paige Beckers. So let's use that for this thought experiment. Then Miles is available, and I love Miles as a prospect. I do. I think really good point guard, really good size, vision, has improved as a shooter. So I can easily see you saying, no, I want Olivia Miles. She fits right into what they're doing. Forget this. Noted. And again, my initial position would be you don't get the number 2 pick, and I would negotiate from there. I'm just saying that was the only way to get the deal done. I think the star power of Plum, along with her being a proven commodity that can do it at an elite level in the WNBA, would ultimately win the day for me. But that appears to be the opening salvo of WNBA free agency and the trade market, and the WNBA Woj and Annie Costable with another bombshell report about a possible blockbuster trade that could be on the way coming up shortly here.